Hello and welcome to another episode of the Maxi-Geek Show. Today is Friday, April 29th, and this is episode number 16. I will be honest, I had to look up what episode number we were on this week. So last week, there wasn't a whole lot of news. It was a very quiet week. This week, however, there's been a lot of news. Some of that is driven out of Japan, that they're going into what they call Golden Week, which is sort of a week and a bit long, break that they like to experience. It's not spring break in terms of content, but it's spring break in terms of that's sort of goal. Sort of their turn to sort of recharge before the push into the holidays and such. There's obviously more to it than that, but that's sort of one of the big things. So out of Japan, there's a lot of sales happening at the moment. Nintendo is doing something big at the moment too with a sale here. So there's been a lot of news. Obviously this week too, we've also got confirmation on a number of events coming. Some of them are here in Australia, some of them are overseas, but we have them there. As always, Maxi-Geek Show is powered by Rig Gaming. As always, I'm wearing the 700HS headset, which is my headset of choice now. They're the best headset on the market. So if you're looking for a headset, anything Rig branded, you are going to have a good time. With that all done and the welcoming done, there's no need for health and safety instructions here. Let's jump straight into the news. Earlier this week, we got confirmation from Blizzard that Diablo Immortal, the mobile version of Diablo, will be releasing for both iOS and Android on June 9th. But alongside that was the confirmation that the game is also coming to PC on June 9th in a beta state, and it will actually go through some developmental changes in the push to a full release on PC. So obviously when Diablo Immortal was first announced, let's say reactions weren't that enthusiastic. And honestly, it was one of the most disgusting displays of behavior from a gaming audience. The gaming audience isn't there to demand games made for their platform only. They're there to embrace what the developers are creating or to spurn it. That's their right. But to sit there and boo developers who have spent years working on a product just because it was released on a platform they didn't want it on, that's not called for. So the Diablo Immortal, it's a full Diablo experience. It's not like Super Mario Run is to Mario Brothers on the phone. It's the full thing. Let me throw the trailer on here. So yeah, it's a full thing. It has touchscreen controls, unfortunately, which is not my thing. Sorry, we skipped over the trailer. Touchscreen controls aren't my thing on phones because you're technically blocking like 3/4 of the screen with your hands when you're playing it. It does, work, and the game does look, like a true Diablo experience. But if I was going to play it, I'd either play it on an iPad or, I'd play it on the PC, so I could actually see what I'm doing at the same time. Something that is quite interesting though is when it does release on PC for the first time. So this will be the 5th Diablo game on PC. No, sorry, this will be the 4th. The 5th, Diablo 4 is in development. So when this releases, this will be the first game in the Diablo series on PC to actually allow players to move with the WASD keys. Previously, it's always been using the mouse to move. You can still do that, and they're not taking that functionality away. They're just saying that, with everything going forward, you'll be able to play through everything. And if you choose to use the WASD keys to get around, just so you don't have to keep spamming mouse buttons here and there and everywhere. So they've got some screens out here. It's a very traditional sort of mobile experience. Virtual D-pad on one side, action buttons on the other side. And I mean, let's be honest, Diablo isn't exactly known for being complex in its button requirements. It's not like Street Fighter combinations to do attacks. You can just mash 1 or 2 buttons. So it does look fine. For a mobile game, I think it looks really, really good. The PC build, the screens they've put out for it, they're doing the same sort of thing. So the screens, the iconography is staying the same. They're obviously they're moving things out, so the icons are now smaller. So you can see here, if you're watching the video on the PC, the bottom right corner, we've got the same iconography that the mobile has, but whereas on the mobile, it takes up sort of, 1/4 of the display. On the PC, it takes up, like 1/12. It's much smaller, and you can see the numbers attached to the hotkeys as well for those people that like using that for attacks. It is interesting again that they've confirmed this is now coming to PC. Whether or not they've said, there was a statement that they released saying that. Let me find it. I did actually put it in here. So the reason why that they brought it to PC is because they said, in the end, the deciding factor was that we knew many of you, the players, would attempt to play this game through an emulator, thus leading us towards building a better experience. So basically, they decided they wanted to bring it on to PC, just so people wouldn't install, iOS or Android emulators on their computers just to play this game, which is kind of funny. And at the same time, I don't know that many people that would have done it, but I'm sure that would, if you're a hardcore Diablo fan, you probably would have if you didn't want to play it on the phone. So the PC release does make some sense. For the third week in a row, we're talking about vinyl music albums. So Lace Records have again, for the third week in a row, partnered up with another music company, another game company, this time Capcom. They did it last week with the Phoenix Wright collection. For this one, it is the Resident Evil Village soundtrack. So this features 25 songs from the Resident Evil Village game, or Resident Evil 8, depending on how you want to call it there. As always, with Lace Records, they're offering the standard black vinyl print, and then the limited edition print here in the disc, which you can see does look very cool. The disc, to me, it kind of looks like somebody sliced through a tree, so you're getting like a wood vinyl print. It's not technically that, they're calling it something different. It does have artwork from the game, and then we're looking for 25 tracks, for it. From all the composers from the game and everything. So, it's just another brief story for that one. I think they're doing really, really well, bringing all these collections of music out. While I do appreciate that these things are not cheap to manufacture, which is one of the benefits that CDs had over the vinyl, which is why CDs picked up pretty quickly. I do wish that they weren't so expensive for shipping. These records are like $35 US or £30 each, which is about 55 Australian dollars, depending on where you're coming from. But the shipping's about so Lace Records out of the US will not ship here. You have to go through Lace Records out of the UK, and they want £17. So you're looking, if you're paying $55 for the record, you're paying another $25 just to have it shipped here. And if I'm not saying these things needed to be cheaper, but if the shipping was cheaper, or if there was a local distributor, these things would be probably better for all in the long run. But yeah, it is interesting. I'm now kind of interested to see who's going to be what game's going to get the treatment next week. As I said, this is the third week in a row that Lace Records have announced things. So speaking of announcing things, Activision and Infinity Ward have officially announced Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. That's it. They announced it actually via a tweet, and yet again, every time. Let me just bring it up. So it is literally just a logo reveal. They didn't do anything other than just the logo reveal. It looks very similar to the Modern Warfare 2 logo from 2009, I think it was. So what was interesting is that one was technically called Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 as well. So this is the first time that the series has duplicated a name. The first Modern Warfare was originally called Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, and then the reboot from a few years ago was just called Call of Duty Modern Warfare. What is kind of interesting is that we also got a couple of years ago, we got the Modern Warfare 2 campaign remastered, so we have that already. So this is obviously a completely different game. It's not connected to the original. Well, at least, that's what we assume. They've not released any confirmation on details yet. It is, however, interesting that on consoles and on PC, there will be a Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Campaign and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 2022 edition of the game. So yeah, it's going to be a little confusing, but it's one of those things where, you know, the Modern Warfare 1 or Modern Warfare reboot a few years ago did very well. So hopefully this one continues that trend. Beyond that though, you know, we don't have any other details. So Vanguard last year was leaked in early August, confirmed about a week and a bit later, and then at Gamescom at the end of August, we got our first look at gameplay. So this year, you know, we're 3 months ahead of where we were last year on information for the game. You know, we may not hear anything again for it for a number of months. We might hear something about it in June. We may hear something in August at Gamescom again. We just have to wait and see. But it is interesting that they're doing it in that order. Speaking of things that are happening, BAM 12 is back in person. So BAM 12 stands for Battle Arena Melbourne. I almost put those in the wrong order. And this is the 12th version of that, so that's why it's called BAM 12. And BAM is actually, it's just a fighting tournament. It's a fighting competition. It's an esports event that is taking place this May 13th through May 15th at the Melbourne Convention Exhibition Centre. You know, some of the games that'll be there will be, you know, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Smash Brothers, and this is actually home for the Smash Brothers World Tour. Something that, you know, Evo, which is usually based out of Las Vegas, can no longer claim because Nintendo pulled the pin on that. It is interesting. Tickets to it vary depending on what you're looking to do. So if you're looking just to attend, a ticket is $25, you know, sort of per day. If you're looking to bring your own PC and play games with other folks in like the LAN area, that is $30 per day. And if you're looking to actually take part in the fighting events themselves, to sign up to say, hey, I'm a Smash Brothers player, I want to play, that is $60 a day. So yeah, tickets aren't exactly cheap depending on what you're doing, but there's also, you know, if you're just there, there'll be, you know, merchandise, cosplayers, you know, there's the artist alley there, so there'll be people showing off their artwork and all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of like a mini Comic-Con sort of thing, but just more focused on the esports. It is one of those things where if you're a fighting game fan, you know, you're probably already aware that this is happening. They've done it over the last few years remotely because obviously pandemic. There was one attached to the Melbourne Esports Open a couple of years ago, so they did it there as well. Yeah, so if you're someone that's there, tickets for that, you know, are on sale now. The link is on the website. So if you're looking to do things there, your best chance is to go ahead and find that information there. Speaking of events that are happening next month, LudoNara Con is back again. So LudoNara Con is a digital-only event that runs for a couple of days every year. This is the third year now, or fourth year, and it is completely done by a fellow traveller down in Melbourne, and it is all for the narrative game. So you're not going to see Call of Duty pop up here unless there's a Call of Duty narrative adventure game or something. So, you know, so some of the games that are going to be there are Before Your Eyes, Coffee Talk Episode 2, Hibiscus and Butterfly. Citizen Sleeper is going to be included, and that's also launching the same day on all Xbox, PC, and Switch, and it's also launching in the Game Pass the same day. What is interesting about this is it's entirely digital. So there's no show to go to. There's nothing to go see in person. It's an entirely digital event, which, yes, that means pants are optional. So there are 42 exhibiting teams, and Steam are involved with this as well. So that's where you'll be visiting and viewing everything. There will be 33 demos available to download and play during the festival. So once the festival starts on May 5th, so next weekend, or just before next weekend, you'll be able to download these demos and play the games. There'll be 12 hours of panel discussions, you know, on the main sort of page, main theatre, if you will. Some of those will be directly related to the demos available, and some will be more about, you know, just what does it mean to develop a game, you know, and different sort of things. So there are, they have released the full list of games, and they've released, you know, some of the panels that are going to take place. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's definitely a more niche sort of experience, but one that is definitely focused on something that is I'm for. Like, I'm not a multiplayer gamer anymore. You know, growing up I was, but I've sort of pivoted away from that, and I'm more now about the story. So for me, a game has to have an engaging story, has to have characters that matter. It doesn't matter if it's pixel art, if it's photorealism, if it's, you know, everyone looks like Gumby or Mickey Mouse or any sort of cartoon style in between. As long as they have a story or characters that I can connect with, everything else sort of becomes secondary. On the flip side, if the story isn't there, if a character is too much of a tool, or, you know, whines too much, or honestly is just one of those people that I just can't connect with, then, you know, regardless of how amazing the gameplay is, I may struggle with it. So this is definitely an event that I'm excited for, because again, it's all about the narrative. It's all about the tales, the yarns, the anecdotes, and all that sort of stuff that make up a good game. As this is a digital-only event run through Steam, there is no cost. So if you are somewhat intrigued into what makes a good narrative game, then you can, you know, jump online on May 5 through May 9. So May 5 is obviously next next Thursday, and then run through until Monday. So it's a 5-day sort of long thing. It's not going to run 24 hours a day throughout it, but is definitely something that you can pop in and out of. You know, if you're doing it, and if you're not doing anything on Mother's Day on May the 8th, then you can definitely pop in and see what's going on there. Speaking of things going on, Nintendo Australia finally updated their own store to allow for searching of their eShop. So this is being reported by Vooks, who, you know, focus exclusively on Nintendo. It was a while ago that they finally added their own store, where you could buy, you know, accessories, replacement parts, and all that sort of stuff. They were doing some of that through eBay for a while, and I think they just realized they could just do it internally themselves anyway. So they've done that, and then early this year, out of nowhere, they added basically a web-based eShop for Australian and New Zealand gamers to enjoy. What was interesting though is that, you know, you could see what games had demos, what was coming, what was, you know, trending, what was on sale, but you couldn't search. For a while, they even had in their search thing, you know, physical only, right? So even if you saw the search bar, you couldn't actually go in and search for anything, you know, from the eShop. But they've changed that now. So the store was down the other day for a couple of hours. When it came back up, the ability to search the eShop direct was added. So it is very much, you know, just like you would imagine. So you can see here, you know, they've got a screenshot here searching Mario, and it just comes up with it. So there you go. According to this, there are 51 games or 51 results that contain Mario in the name. Yeah, it is just a straight, you know, web front end for searching. It isn't, there's no things, so you can't filter. You can't say, you know, show me Mario that are multiplayer only or Mario that are single player only, you know, stuff like that. You know, if you wanted to say, show me Mario Kart, not Mario Party, you'd have to do the full search for Mario Kart. Other than that, though, it's pretty bare bones. I will promote them here. Vooks do every week, every Friday. They do a big eShop wrap up anyway, where you can find what other new games are, what are on sale, all that sort of stuff. So. But yeah, the inclusion, the ability to now search on Nintendo Australia's website for eShop games on the Switch is amazing, because it's one of those things where it really should have been there sort of, you know, years ago. So it may have taken a while, but we finally have it. Speaking of things taking a while, MX vs ATV Legends is delayed. The delay isn't a big one. The game was initially set to release on May 24th. You know, so like 4 weeks from now. But just the other day, they announced that the game will now be releasing in late June. So the full statement from Lenore Gilbert, the CEO of Rainbow Studios, who are the developers of the game, is on the site. You can go read it there. But basically, you know, just a section of it here says, game delays are never fun for the developers or players. In our case, we needed to choose between speed or quality, and the decision was simple. We want to make sure that when MX vs ATV Legends comes out, it is the highest level of quality that Rainbow Studios can offer Our art team are making sure that the frame rate is high and stable, making tons of passes in all environments. So that's the thing that sort of made me, pay attention to this one. Is it's not just they're delaying it, for an extra layer of polish or two. They're delaying it to ensure that the frame rate is stable, and the quality of everything is there. What this sort of game is, because it's a bit of an open worldish sort of game. It's not like Forza open world, but it's not limited to just tracks now. But with this one, because it is so focused on speed, if the frame rate dips in and out, you're going to have a very bad experience with the game. So the fact that they're aware that that's something they need to focus on, and they're taking the time to do that, is a very, very good thing in my book. So as I said, delays are never good, but they are what they are. During the week too, we also got another developer diary for Starfield. So for obvious reasons, I'm not going to play the video here because it is it's more you've got to sort of pay attention to the words and everything. But there are a few glimpses of some concept art. So here's one here, and all that. So Inon Zur, who's done a lot of work for Bethesda over the years, like on Fallout 4 and such, is back composing this game. And he's just said here, Starfield is the most ambitious project I've ever worked on. It is a vast game about a vast place, but more than anything else, it's bravely asking big questions, philosophical questions, and important questions that usually people don't bother or dare to ask. That alone gives you probably a little bit more about what Starfield's going to be like. Beyond that, though, it is definitely, if you're someone who's keen on the music side of things, it's definitely something to pay attention to. They've sort of been doing these about every 6 weeks now. We're getting these sort of videos, so who knows how many are left. The game is set to release on November 11 for PC and Xbox Series X and S. So there's still a few months away, number of months away, but we just have to wait and see now if they're going to do more. We've had sort of the history of Bethesda's work in this sort of immersive RPG, and we've had sort of the design. Now we've got sound, so who knows, we could get combat next, we could get spaceship design, we could get character, who knows. There's just so many aspects we could see still. Something that is very, very interesting, and probably a little self-promoting for me, is that the Electronic Arts, or EA Creator Network, is now accepting applications globally. So last year, EA formally revealed the EA Creator Network, which is basically a way for you to partner up with Electronic Arts to get early access to some games, a chance to talk with the developers early to learn more about them, and then basically display the information in your various formats. So the little picture here has somebody sitting there streaming, but you don't have to be a streamer. You could be a photographer, you could be a cosplayer, you could be a YouTuber, you could probably be a cooking person, developing recipes based on games, and their menus. So it is interesting. They've currently got about 2,000 members from 93 countries that they sort of launched in. They are now hoping to get around 5,000 creators by the end of the year. So yeah, if you're someone who plays video games, or you're a content creator of some description, you're a cosplayer, you're a photographer, you're a sewer, whatever it happens to be, if you connect with video games in any way, shape, or form for your hobby there, register for this. You may not be accepted, but you may be. There are some questions on the site that answer about, what do you need to do. But the big thing is, again, if you're someone who loves The Sims, I do know that EA do host a lot of events for their fans, for their really sort of hardcore fans, and especially the creators, the creator network folk, I should say, to say, hey, look, this is the next sort of expansion pack that's coming. We want to show you early. We want to get you to ask questions, to make sure we can get this to be the best it is. So yeah, it is very cool that they're accepting applications from anywhere. Just be aware that sometimes these events do take place at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. So if you are someone that is definitely keen, you may have to have a couple of early nights throughout the year while you're a part of the program. As far as I'm aware, there's no cost associated with joining it. They've not mentioned anything about that. And there's nothing about, you've got to reapply every 12 months. I think it's one of those things where if you get in, you'll have to be, maybe creating a certain number of content pieces a year or whatever it happens to be. But that'll be in the FAQ from memory. This is a question about staying in the program. So yeah, it is very cool that they're doing it that way. But yeah, I don't think I'll be signing up for it purely because I have my own thing already. But I know a number of people that do enjoy, FIFA and Madden, that would probably get a kick out of being a part of that. Excuse me. Moving on. Avatar 2 finally got a name. So 13 years ago, the first Avatar movie, just called Avatar, released in cinemas and quickly became the #1 movie of all time. Made a couple of $1 billion. Avatar 2 was announced to be in development about 6 years later. 5 years later, 6 years later, somewhere in there. And then Avatar 2, 3, 4, and 5 were all announced, right? They sort of said, no, we're going to do a whole bunch of them. We now actually have the name of the sequel, and that is Avatar: The Way of Water. We don't actually have a trailer for it yet. That is coming alongside the theatrical release of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So if you're an Avatar fan and you want to see the trailer for that, you have to go see Doctor Strange first. It will be exclusive to that for a week, and then it'll be released online, a week after the release of the Doctor Strange movie. Interestingly, though, it should be, it'll probably be, up on TikTok or something pretty soon afterwards. I wouldn't recommend watching it, via somebody's cell phone recording, just because I don't think the quality will be there. I do know I'm going to see Doctor Strange next week before it releases, and the trailer will be being played ahead of time, and they've told us it'll be in 3D. So yeah, I guarantee you it's going to be one of those ones where you don't want to see it in a shitty format, like somebody's off-screen capture of a darkened room, where they're on the angle looking up at the wrong side of the screen. What is interesting though is that with the celebration, with the announcement that the sequel has a name and is now dated for December 15th, 2022, on September 22nd, 2022, the first movie will be back in cinemas for a limited run, with some enhancements here and there to the visuals and to the pacing of things, just to deliver for a chance to have people come out and see it again. So yeah, it is interesting they're doing that. We don't even have any real photos of anything. We've got the concept art here, which I shared because I think some of this artwork is just phenomenal. And as you may have guessed by the title, The Way of Water, the movie is focusing on the oceans of Pandora. And it is set about 10 years later, where Jake and Neytiri and their children, one of whom is an adopted human child, will be, going through the whole process of, trying to survive whatever event is happening in there. I will call out this one thing though that I did see, and I just thought this is kind of silly. So the movie is being directed by James Cameron again. Zoe Saldana and Sam Worthington are back as Neytiri and Jake, respectively. Sigourney Weaver, who we saw die in the first movie, is back in this one in some role. Stephen Lang, who was the jarhead military leader who wanted everything, and we saw die in the first movie, is back in this one. CCH Pounder is back as the sort of chieftain of the tribe. Joel David Moore was the lanky human that was also in the Avatar program with Jake. He's back. Giovanni Ribisi, who was the corporate guy, holding the piece of unobtainium, he's back. And Kate Winslet is joining the cast as another member of the local populace. So yeah, it is interesting, that some people that have been killed already are coming back for a sequel that's set 10 years later. Whether or not, it's flashbacks or ghosts haunting them, we don't know. But yeah, so the trailer will be out alongside the Doctor Strange movie for a week, and then it'll be out online for people to watch anytime they choose. So yeah, good things all around if you're an Avatar fan. Obviously, when we're talking about Avatar at the moment, we're talking about the film series that James Cameron created, not the Nickelodeon cartoon series, and definitely not that live-action adaptation, because that was abysmal. Speaking of adaptations, Gameloft and Disney have announced Disney Dreamlight Valley. So Disney Dreamlight Valley, or just Dreamlight Valley, is a sim-like adventure game where you will create an avatar of yourself, and then you'll get to go to this land that has experienced an event called the Forgottening. Yeah, Forgottening, not forgetting, Forgottening. And the end result is that the thorns from Sleeping Beauty have erupted all over the place, and they are corrupting the land. And the residents of the various worlds that this all connects to have lost their memories. So it is your goal in this game is to go through, make your way to these different lands and restore the memories of the people you find there. The people that you find will be, Belle, Wally, Mickey, Stitch, Scar, the Frozen girls, I can't think of their names, Anna and Elsa, so it's all sorts of, Disney worlds to go to. This is literally going to be The Sims, but with a Disney theme. It's not 100% The Sims. I'm not saying it's that level of complexity, but you'll be able to customize your own house, decorate it the way you want, but then go out into the world and do things there. What is sort of interesting? So when you just have a look at some of these screens here, so there's Ariel and Prince Eric, and there's your character in the background. There's Belle. I'm not sure who that's supposed to be. I think that's supposed to be your character. Wally, there's Woody and Buzz, and they're sort of the right size. They're not 6 foot tall like they are in the parks. There's Merlin. So they're doing a lot with the various characters, and here's another screenshot where you can see what you're doing out in the world. And back to the start there. But what's interesting is that the actual game is launching into early access in the winter months of this year. We don't have a set date yet, but it is coming. What is unique is that the game is launching into early access on everything. And when I say everything, I mean PC, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, which is normal. We've had early access on those platforms before. PlayStation 4 and 5, Mac, and Switch. So every platform the game is coming out on will get the early access version of the game. So it's not going to be early access in the traditional sense, based on the fact that it's hitting Switch and PlayStation, which don't have early access programs. I think it's going to be sort of like a beta version of the game that will eventually, start getting updates. We don't know anything beyond that. We haven't actually seen gameplay. The trailer is one of those traditionally, CGI trailers that Disney games tend to come with. But it is free to play, so there's not a cost to buy this one, which unfortunately means there will be a lot of annoying mobile crap in there. And by that I mean, you've done this one item, you've done this one activity, wait 3 hours to do the next time, do it again. Or, pay $1 and do it now. So that sort of stuff is more than likely going to be in there because it is free to play. And if not, then there will be, the freemium stuff where you can buy crystals to unlock options, clothes and all that sort of stuff. It's going to be one of those things where it's either going to appeal to you or it won't be. For me, it doesn't appeal to me, that side of things. But if it is a Disney Sims experience, it could be very fun. Something that is going to be very fun and is coming sooner, maybe, is a Matchpoint Tennis Championships. So we've known about this game coming for a while. This is being developed out of Melbourne by Taurus Games. It is interesting that at the moment there are only 2, realistic tennis simulating games that are around. The Australian Open or AO Tennis 2 and now Matchpoint Tennis, and both are being made in Melbourne. So that is quite funny. I find that quite funny anyway. But the game itself is going to launch on July 7th for everything except Switch. For some reason, even though the game is announced for Switch, the release date for Switch has not been announced. They didn't include it in the press release the other day that confirmed it for the others. But when it does release on July 7th, it will also launch into Xbox Game Pass. So for anyone who has Xbox Game Pass or PC Game Pass, I keep forgetting that they changed the name on the PC version. For excuse me, for anyone who has Xbox or PC Game Pass, the game is included in there. So that means on July 7, you'll be able to jump in and play the regular edition of the game without any things. But there is also the Legendary Edition, which will be at retail, or you'll be able to buy the DLC on its own. Hi, Mama Cheeks, welcome in. Thank you. I do appreciate the Furby emojis there. So for tennis fans, it's going to be an interesting one because this is the first sports game from Taurus Games. But as I said, it is the second tennis game to be developed in Melbourne. So it has a lot of pedigree. They've got the things there. If I throw the trailer on here just quickly, it does have the right look. Let me jump into it. The mechanics look sound. It's just one of those things where if you're not a tennis fan, you're probably not going to enjoy the game. But if you're, somewhat, interested in it, it should have a lot for you. So, yeah. Moving on. This is a lot of stuff to get through this week. Because we're coming to the end of the month, that means a new month is starting, and that means that we have more games to enjoy from PlayStation Plus. So every sort of month now, we have some information on the games that are coming. This month is slightly different. There's a few little asterisks next to everything here. So there are usually 2 PlayStation 4 versions and a PlayStation 5 version of a game that are available to download as part of the membership. This month, though, it's weird because FIFA 22 is available for both PS4 and PS5. So that means if you download the PS4 version, you can play it on both generations. But you can also just download the PlayStation 5 version of the game and only get that version and not the PS4 version. And that's because of the way that the PlayStation Store does, dual entitlement, if you will. So the PlayStation 4 only game, which means there's no PlayStation 5 version or PlayStation 5 enhanced version of this game, is Curse of the Dead Gods, which is a roguelike dungeon crawler. The PS4 and PS5 enhanced are Tribes of Midgard and FIFA 22. So Tribes of Midgard, if you redeem one version of it, you'll get both, which is sort of standard. But because EA and 2K like to do it backwards, in that they like to come in and say, no, you only get both versions if you pay an extra $10. If you get the PlayStation 4 version, you redeem it, you need to then manually redeem the PlayStation 5 version, or vice versa. Redeeming one will not get you the other. Also, this is the last couple of weeks until Persona 5 is removed from the PlayStation Collection on PlayStation 5. So after May 11, the game will not be redeemable for free. If you go in on May 12 to add it to your library, you'll have to pay for it. Once it's in your library, it's there for keeps. You can re-download it and play it whenever you want, but you have to do that before it's removed on May 11. In terms of lineup this month, it is very interesting. Tribes of Midgard is very much a live service game. They do a lot of seasonal content. Season 2 just started a few weeks ago. They did have a big sort of presence at PAX East last weekend. Curse of the Dead Gods, we reviewed that last year. I think it was last year. I don't know. Time's a bit weird. I remember we gave it about an 8.5. It's a very good game. It's obviously being that it's roguelike. It's not going to be for everyone because, you will die and have to restart over and over again. And then obviously FIFA 22 is soccer. So if you're a fan of that, great. If not, it's probably not going to appeal to you whatsoever because, it's soccer and it doesn't appeal to everyone. But keeping with the PlayStation Plus theme, PlayStation Plus tiers have been priced and dated for Australia. So I'm going to say PlayStation Plus a lot in the next few minutes, so bear with me. With the overhaul of the PlayStation Plus program to the tiered levels, we knew that was coming sometime in the first half of this year, and now we know when it's coming for us. So June 22nd is when Australia and New Zealand will gain access to the offerings. Even though we're technically a part of the Asia market, for this, they're lumping us in with Europe, which is fine. There's not an issue with that, but that's just when it is. So we're in the last group to get it. So if you're not interested in upgrading any of your tiers, you're going to stick with what you already have. You don't have to do anything. Your existing PlayStation Plus membership will just convert to the newly titled PlayStation Plus Essential. You don't lose anything. You get your couple of free games a month, your online multiplayer access, your cloud saves, and your discounts. None of that changes. The cost is the same. It is $11.95 a month or $80 a year. That is not changing at all. The new inclusions are PlayStation Plus Extra and PlayStation Plus Premium. PlayStation Plus Extra is going up to $18.95 a month for 1 month or $135 for a 12-month membership. The big one with that one is it adds around 400 PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 games that you can download and install at any time, and those will be available to you for the length of your membership. This is very much similar to Xbox Game Pass. They're not going to be day one inclusions, so when God of War Ragnarok arrives later this year, that won't be a PlayStation Plus Extra title. You don't get that as part of the membership. But God of War, the God of War games from PS3, PS4, they may be available as part of this, okay? The other thing that some people were hoping for is we would get older platforms inside the Extra tier, not the more recent stuff, but that's not the case. So they've done it inverted. The more recent stuff is in the Extra tier, but the older stuff is in the Premium. So PlayStation Plus Premium is $21.95 per month or $155 for 12 months. So when they announced this stuff, we guessed it to be about $180. So we were actually overcharging on this one. The big thing though with this one is that PlayStation 3 games are not included. So PlayStation 3 games require the PlayStation Now technology, which is the game streaming services, and that does not exist in Australia. They are rolling that out to a bunch of countries in Europe over the next few months, so we may get it sometime in the future, but for now it does not exist here. What it does provide you though, so your PlayStation Plus Premium will give you the PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4 library of the 400 games, plus your free monthly games. And then it'll give you PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, and PlayStation Portable games that you can download and install to your machine at any time. So there'll actually be 5 PlayStation platforms available inside this membership. The only ones missing will be PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita. I think it's very cool that they're doing it. I think $22 a month is perhaps a little expensive for what you're getting. If you're someone that grew up PlayStation, though, this may be, the perfect thing for you. It is obviously, going to be compared to Xbox Game Pass quite a lot. The big thing, obviously, is that, this doesn't have a rotating library. So what is there day one will probably be the same thing that's there 6 months in, 12 months in, 2 years later. Especially with the older games, they're not making new PS1 games anymore. So some games may be removed because of licensing things. Some games may get added because licensing issues were sorted. But we're not going to get, newly developed games added to the service like you do with Xbox Game Pass. I think it is a phenomenal way of doing it too, where they're sort of saying, hey, if you don't want to upgrade, that's fine. Nothing changes for you. You're still getting everything that, we promise. I do think it's a little confusing. The names are a bit, confusing, especially, if you have to say all three of them back to back. I have seen some people complain that, Xbox just does it as part of one thing. It's not true. Xbox has 2 levels as well. Most people just forget it now. So there's Xbox Live Gold or Xbox Live Standard, which is, $11 a month. And there's Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which is the $18 or $17 a month. So you can get Game Pass on its own and Xbox Live Gold on its own, or you can, combine the two for a discount and get, everything at once. So yeah, it is definitely interesting that they're doing it that way. What that means long term, we have to wait and see, especially if we don't get PS3 games here. It may not be a big draw for some people, but I know a few people that are already chomping at the bit to upgrade for it. So yeah, it should be good for all. Speaking of good for all, this is not good for all because it's bad news. And that is that the Super Mario Brothers movie has been delayed. So we first got word of the Super Mario movie a couple of years ago that Nintendo was working with the animation company Illumination, the folks behind Despicable Me and Minions, Secret Life of Pet and Sings, to bring Mario back to the big screen through an animated movie. what was interesting then is we knew nothing about it. Last year, however, we got the cast reveal, which was, Chris Pratt, Charlie Day, and a bunch of other actors as well. The movie was initially set to release at the end of this year. The November release, I think it was November 20th for the US, but Australia was never officially dated for release here. With the movie being delayed a few months, it has slipped from its planned November release in the US to April 7th from memory. Yeah, April 7th for the US and April 28th in Japan. I reached out to Universal Pictures Australia and they have confirmed that the movie will release here on March 30th. So we actually get this movie a week and change ahead of the US, which I think is very cool. Mostly because, they used to get everything for years, long before us. So us getting anything before them always makes me chuckle. But yeah, we don't know anything about the movie. Obviously, we still don't know details. The directors of the movie are the same folks for the Teen Titans series. So they directed the Teen Titans Go series and the Teen Titans Go to the Movies movie. Yeah, it is very exciting, Mum Cheeks, especially because I know a few folks that have found this out that are American and they are upset. The last time they were very upset about anything was when Australia got the new Nintendo 3DS long before they did. They were very upset that we got it before them. But as I said, they got everything. They still get everything first for the bulk of things. So us getting things first is always fun for that reason, just because it's going to tweak their nose a little bit. But yeah, so the director is from the Teen Titans Go. They've done a lot of stuff there, so it should be interesting because they've got that sort of comedy, the animation comedy down pat. If you're not a movie fan, you probably haven't heard. Oh, sorry, not an animation fan. You've probably not heard of Teen Titans Go to the Movies. But it is one of the funniest movies I've seen in a while. The Teen Titans Go series itself is very, carefree. They don't take themselves too seriously with anything. There's an entire episode dedicated to Raven kicking somebody one time and then the rest of the team freaking out because she normally just floats and they didn't realize she had legs. So, it's definitely a bit weird like that. In the Teen Titans Go to the Movies, there is one sequence that is, I think, hilarious. It's about Batman. It just makes me laugh. But yeah, so it is, as I said, very interesting that we're getting it before them. But yeah, so you'll see April a lot in international marketing because that's when Japan and America are getting it, but we're getting it on March 30th. Speaking of things that we're getting early or getting dated, the Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection was dated on PC. In error, it seems. So earlier this week, the Epic Games Store blog, that's a weird thing of words to say in a row, they put out a post basically saying, hey, so far this year we've had Dying Light 2, Total War Warhammer 3, and a bunch of other big PC games. But then, 8 or 9 games in, they said, cool, now these are the games still to come this year, right? So they had, all these other things. In the thing initially, they had Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection, release date is June 20th, and about 2 hours later, they took it away and just said coming soon. So we don't know if that's 100%, that's the date it's coming out. We don't know that it isn't. So because they undid it, it could have been just, maybe it was a placeholder date, maybe it's just, something done in error, or maybe it is the actual date. And we just have to now wait and see what PlayStation are going to do. Obviously, it did release on PlayStation 5 earlier this year. When I reviewed it, I gave it an 8.5. Yep, 8.5. One of the big things I said is that the games both play and look great now. They play a lot smoother than they did originally, which is one of the things that didn't appeal to me back on the PS4. Is they were maybe a little too, chunky for the base model PS4. Obviously, PC has a lot more resources than some of the other, the PlayStation 5. There's a lot more that you can do on PC. So it should be interesting to see what those games are capable of on PC. It is a little sad, though, they're not bringing the Uncharted trilogy, the original 3 games, across to the PC as well. Releasing that as one major Uncharted collection, I think would have been, a fantastic buy for folks. But yeah, it is what it is. Speaking of things that, is what it is, or is what it isn't, I don't know, we'll work out semantics on that later. But Nintendo Australia are hosting yet another tournament. So just a couple of weeks ago, they hosted a Mario Kart tournament where anyone who entered had the chance to win 2,500 gold coins, which is a $25 gift card essentially for the Nintendo eShop. The winners for that were announced the other day, and as always, it's the same sort of half dozen Mario Kart fans that always win these things whenever Nintendo Australia do them. So honestly, to the point where they need to ban these folks. They need to say, hey, you guys go away, let other people have a chance, But on May 7th through 9th, May 7th, sorry. I knew the 7th was in there somewhere. There is a Smash Brothers tournament. So the tournament is basically, it's a free-for-all. There's no prerequisites to play the game and earn a certain number of wins or anything to join. There are obviously some, conditions. So there'll be, it's set to 3 lives, low items, so low impact items, things like that. So there's some. So if you're one of those people that has to play, stock, no items, you don't get a choice. It has to have items on. The one thing that is interesting is that it will be Omega or Battlefield stages. So there's no stage hazards, no platforms, no moving things. It's just the straight platform. But anyone who participates, so anyone who joins in will get 100 My Nintendo Platinum points, which you can redeem to make custom icons on the Switch now, or for the various, membership rewards like the Kirby bag that's on the store now. Same with Mario Kart, the top 10 players will get 2,500 gold points, which is a $25 gift card, and 20 random players will receive 1,000 points, so it's a $10 voucher. Again, it's nothing too different about this from other things they've done in the past, but it is interesting that it's free for all, and just by signing up, you get 100 points, for taking part, I should say. So yeah, I think it's very cool. I don't see myself taking part in it, mostly because every time I think about these things, I'm either too early or too late. But yeah, so May 7th, which is Saturday week, that'll be on. It should be very good. Whether or not people are going to be streaming it, we have to wait and see. If Nintendo was smart, they'd stream, from their side. They'd stream and show off different competitions, because, Smash Brothers is great fun to watch, even if you're not that good at playing the game. Speaking of things to watch, though, Xbox and Bethesda are bringing their game showcase back on June 13th. So essentially the same day as it has been in years past, not last year, but every other year before that, which is on the Sunday in the US, the Monday here. This is the second Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase, because obviously last year was the first after Bethesda joined Microsoft. That is something that I like to highlight out to people. Bethesda did not join Xbox. Bethesda were bought out by Microsoft. So that is why it's not the Xbox Game Showcase featuring Bethesda. It is the Xbox and Bethesda Game Showcase, because they're two separate companies still. That's why we don't see the Xbox and Bethesda and Playground Games and Compulsion Games and Double Fine, right? Because all those other ones are part of Xbox, whereas Bethesda are not. In terms of this, though, the only thing that I don't like about this is that even though it is a purely digital-only event, Xbox are still doing the stupid thing of 10 a.m. Los Angeles time on the Sunday for them, which translates to 3 a.m. Monday morning for us. I normally don't have an issue with it because I'm normally in Los Angeles watching this in person in the theater. Obviously, because that's none of that's happening this year. It's going to be a digital event for me. It just irks me that they're doing it at this random time when there's no other showcases happening. There's no Ubisoft press conference. There's no Nintendo one. There's no PlayStation one. They literally have the entire day to themselves. At the moment, somebody are probably going to sneak in and say, hey, we're going to run right after Xbox. But they've got their own time frame, so they could have done it later. They could have done it, if they had done it at 12 Los Angeles time, that would have been 5 a.m. for the eastern coast of Australia, would have been 8 p.m. for London, 9 p.m. for Europe. So it's not as if there aren't better times available. I think they're just sticking with the one that they know of, which I've watched these things live all the time because of what I do. But for the general fan, 3 a.m. is not the best time for anything. The only upside is it is a public holiday here in Victoria and in, you know, Sydney and a few other of the eastern states. So, you know, you wouldn't have to go to work that day. In terms of what they're going to show, though, there's nothing. There's no teasers. Like last year, we had some of the Halo concept art in the image that you're seeing on the screen here. This year, we don't have anything. We just have a Starfield. That's obviously a big thing. Starfield will be a part of the show because it is coming out this year. I fully expect we'll see some Hellblade Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2 Senua's Saga, I should say. Because that was the very first Xbox Series X game we knew about before we even knew what the console was called. So we should see that. The new Forza Motorsport, the reboot of that, should appear in this as well, because that has been in development for about 6 years now. So they've been working on it for quite a while. We should also probably see something from the new Indiana Jones game from Bethesda. Machine Games are doing that. The last game they released was Wolfenstein 2, Wolfenstein Cyberpilot, which was the VR game. But they weren't fully in on that because they didn't need to be. So we probably should see something from them. We may see Deathloop, you know, pop up for Xbox. Obviously that game released last year for PS5 and PC. We may see the Xbox version of that appear at some point during the show. But obviously, you know, in terms of Bethesda, you know, Tango Gameworks just released Ghostwire Tokyo. We're not going to see anything from them. We'll probably see Elder Scrolls Online, Fallout 76, because those pop up all the time. Starfield obviously is the big thing. We may see something from their mobile studios, so Alpha Dog and Roundhouse Games. Yeah, there's a lot we may see. Obviously, you know, we're a month and a half-ish away, so about 6 weeks, 7 weeks. So we have to wait a while, and hopefully we'll get something soon. But yeah, we'll just have to hope for the best. Unfortunately, it's one of those ones where, you know, we don't even know how long the show is going to go for. Last year they said it should be about 90 minutes. It went for about, you know, an hour and 40 in the end. It may do the same, you know, here, may go for 90 minutes, may go longer, may go shorter, we don't know. What is interesting though is obviously, you know, apart from the 3 AM time zone, they'll be streaming the show on TikTok. So if you're someone who lives and dies by the TikTok, you'll be able to watch it all there. You know, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, the usual sort of suspects will be around streaming it. But there will be a dedicated Twitch channel for ASL, so American Sign Language. So if you are somebody who does have, you know, hearing difficulties, that will be there for it. The shows are always subtitled as well. So they do allow for people who don't have, you know, normal abilities to watch things with audio to still follow along with all the action. Yeah, I'm very excited for it. You know, I wish we just knew a few more details going into it, but you know, it is what it is. Before we go, I do want to talk about Sniper Elite 5. So I got to put some time into that recently, thanks to Rebellion and 5-Star Games. 5-Star are the Rebellion folks here in Australia. I got to play for about 90 minutes. It was a fantastic experience. I do actually have a full write-up on the site. I didn't grab any footage of it because there was some stuff on the screen about, you know, who had access, you know, whose account it was that I didn't want to you know, put anywhere, because I would have had to have blurred it, and it was just a bit too much effort for that. But you know, there are countless live streams, live gameplay things that you can see for it on there. So I just wanted to highlight that, you know, I do have a full preview of it there. Unfortunately, the screens aren't specifically from the mission, but it is there. Oh, bit of a gore one there. But yeah, I'm very excited for it. One of the big things with this one is that weapon customization is a big component. So in the past, weapon customization was very much non-existent. You would pick up a gun and that was it. This one, you can, before you even start the mission, you can pick up and say, hey, I've got, you know, this gun, I've got this gun, you know, I want this rifle with a silencer, with this attachment, with this, you know, different stock, different grip, different whatever. So you can, you know, then put silencers on your rifle and on your pistol, right? And then halfway through the mission, if you realize, it's taking forever because you're silenced and trying to sneak around everywhere, you can then swap all that out to, machine guns and shotguns and such. And you don't have to restart the map. You don't have to restart the mission itself, which is what you had to do in past games. If you wanted to go a different way, you had to restart all over again. So it is very interesting they're doing it that way. Something else that is interesting too is that each of the maps have, no set path. So from the outset, I had the choice of basically going right or left at the start, or going straight up the middle. And each way had different options to approach different areas. You can climb up into buildings, you can go around, go up in through the buildings through stairs, or you can just ignore the buildings entirely. So yeah, so there is a lot with that. Also, sorry, I forgot. The last thing we're going to talk about is just the games coming out in the next sort of 7 days. So as I said, we are recording this on April 29th. So there's not a lot of games in the first week of May, but there's still a few big ones. So on May 3rd, Loot River is coming to PC and Xbox Series X and S. It is basically Dark Souls meets Tetris. Wildcat Gun Machine is coming to Switch, PS4, PC, Xbox One on May 4. On May 5, one of the games that I've been excited for a while, and I have been playing it for a while now, is Trek to Yomi, and that's coming to all platforms but Switch. That's the Akira Kurosawa, inspired side-scroller game. Also on May 5th, Citizen Sleeper is coming to Switch, PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S from Fellow Traveller down in Melbourne. That is also launching in the Game Pass on that day for both PC and console. And that's it. So it's not a big week next week. Trek to Yomi is probably the biggest one in terms of what people will know of. But yeah, if you've got a PC, Trek to Yomi is so actually. Geez, I just realised that. So Citizen Sleeper, Trek to Yomi, and Loot River are all Game Pass games, so they'll all be there day one next week. But yeah, Loot River is very much Dark Souls inspired combat with a pixelated art style from a top-down point of view, where the platforms move left, right, up and down, and they behave like Tetris blocks. So the better you can arrange them, the more land space you have to fight on. So yeah, that's it. That's it for the show this week. As I said, we do this every Friday, at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. We will be back next Friday for another installment. Normally we would be back on Tuesday for our Games Bond stream. However, I am in Melbourne watching Doctor Strange during that time, so we'll be doing it on Monday. So Monday at 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time will be our next installment of Games Bond. We are currently playing through GoldenEye Rogue Agent. Thanks for stopping by, Maxi-Geek, I appreciate it. So Monday will be the Games Bond stream. Friday will be the next episode of the Maxi-Geek Show. Next week there is some more things that I can talk about that I can't talk about this week. So if you're around for then, please stop on by. If you did watch live, I hope you enjoyed, learning about the news of the week. As always, this show will be up on YouTube tomorrow, so you can watch there. And if you did watch it on YouTube, I hope you enjoyed it there as well. Otherwise, we'll catch you next time we're online. And until then, happy gaming.